years. I know you've had your struggle with addiction. I know you're moving beyond that and climbing upward. Tell us when that struggle began, how you think it began, and kind of enlighten us on that so we can tell where you've been to where you are.
Right. So the physical addiction itself, the act of taking a substance to change my mind, not the problem that was from before. It all really started. I would say I was 16 years old, just turned 16, and I had been complaining about my back hurting for a long time, for a long time. And I played basketball. I was an athlete at school, and finally, about that September, August or September, my dad finally took me to a clinic, to like a bone and joint clinic, to kind of get my back checked out. And I had an MRI done, and they found I had herniated some discs and things. And in that moment, I left that day from looking over the results of my MRI with a prescription for opiates. And I got home and I took one, and looking back, it seemed so clear, but it was just everything clicked. It was like I didn't have to think about anything. I didn't have to worry about anything, as if that's healthy. And so it just kind of pushed pushed the real world away, and I could just pick and choose the parts of the world I wanted to feel. Otherwise, I could just numb it with something.
It was
And
a
from that
perfect
point,
fix.
that's right. And from that point forward, it was just straight downhill. It's definitely a progressive illness, a progressive disease. Because as it went, as I went on longer, as the duration increased, so did dosage, and so did potency. And so there was some times there where I really went through the mud. Um, but yeah, that's where it started. Back surgery, and it's not to blame. Like that was part of God's plan for me. If I had never hurt my back and never got prescribed, but I got prescribed when I did, and it's not the doctor's fault, it's nobody's fault. But if that had not happened when it did, I wouldn't be here today, having endured the things I've endured, to be able to try and bring some hope or some inspiration to somebody else who may be going through the same things.
So you were talking about the dosage and the potency increasing. Uh, does that mean you moved beyond the prescription? You would build up some resistance to the medication. So instead of one, you took two. Instead of two, three, etc.
Right. So this was in 2013 or 2014. I was a junior in high school, so 2013 to 14. It was 2013. And this was right at that time where they were finally starting to crack down on these doctors. And my doctor was in Florida. I lived in Alabama at home. And so I was able to just kind of call him up. Well, eventually that came to a screeching halt. And when it did, I was kind of left high and dry as a 16-year-old. And I did what any addict's going to do, and I found my fix somewhere. And then
Went
if
to
I
the
couldn't find it,
street
it was obviously
instead
an
of the
alternative.
pharmacy.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, and that's so often the case with an injury. We build up that resistance, and then we've got to have more. And of course, it's not going to be done through the prescription, so we turn to the streets to accomplish that. What were some of the lows during that time, Tyler, for you, as far as that struggle went? Uh, yeah,
I think I think probably the best way to put it in a good perspective is, I think the lowest point I can remember wasn't anything my family can remember. as like knowing or remembering me of the lowest, but it was me and God. And it was like I felt like he was so disappointed in me because I had went through rehab once, a beautiful inpatient facility. I had went through it a second time. And I was on the other side of that, and I had went as deep as really as I could go, and it had moved all the way from prescription to pressed to now I was taking straight heroin, straight black tar, and I was homeless. I was hopping hotel to hotel when I could convince my grandma to pay for a couple nights here or a couple nights there. I was lying to them, saying I was looking for a new sober living. I was in the middle of Montgomery, Alabama, and I remember I was so dumb. The only connect I had for my drug of choice, I would hang out in his hotel room, and I would go hang out. And one day he had me take him on a ride to go pick up his whatever, and we went. And when we got back, he went straight into the bathroom. And so I picked up about $1,000 worth of product, and I picked it up and I just walked right out the door. And obviously he knew. Well, what happened when all of that ran out? I needed somewhere to get it. I had to have somewhere to get it. So I I was like, let me call him up. And I called after I had robbed this guy. And I call him, and he plays along and kind of sets me up, and they try to take my truck. He wasn't ever there, but he had some guys down there. They roughed me up. They tried to take my truck. They tried to they took every dollar bill I had on me. They took my phone as well because they FaceTimed him off my phone, like I guess to watch me do. Anyways, I got back to the hotel room that night. I had no phone. All I had was the memory of if I had enough money in my bank account to get a tank of gas to get home the next morning, all the way back to Enterprise the next morning. And I remember scraping up I remember scraping up what I could find, what little bit I could get a hold of in that hotel room, and I did it. And I popped up a little fast from the countertop, I reckon, and I passed out immediately. I mean, hit the floor. And I woke up the next morning. My nose was running. At this time, I'm getting nosebleeds like every day. My nose is just pouring blood. Um, and so I wake up, my nose is bleeding. I've thrown up in my sleep. Luckily, when I hit the floor, I hit the edge of the bed and rolled to my side. So I didn't suffocate, which was another act from God. But I got up and tried to pull myself together, and all I can remember was finally getting home. I mean, I'm driving back to Enterprise, and a state trooper pulls up beside me on the way back, and he looked at me and he just shook his head like he could tell I was not well off, and he didn't even mess with me. And I got all the way back home, and I remember walking into my grandma's office at her work, and I sat down, and she could tell, and she was like, "Son, I'm not giving you no money. This ends here. It ends now." I said, "No, I need help. I want help. I need help." And that had to have been the lowest point. That was rock bottom. That was my rock bottom. I thought I had hit it 2 or 3 times. There are definitely false rock bottoms. You think you've hit it and you haven't hit it yet, and then you finally do, and it's a shock. And then they took me up there for the third time to try and admit me into the same program for the third time. And when I got there, I gave them a positive COVID test. I tested positive for COVID. And so the little bit of hope and relief I was looking for wasn't even going to be there. I spent the next 3 or 4 days in the hospital with acute, like not acute, but some kidney malfunctioning. I wouldn't say failure, but some kidney malfunctioning, extreme dehydration, and just really really going through it. And that was the point where I realized either I'm going to change or I'm going to die.
What? How old were you? at that time, Tyler? What was your age when you're going through that low of lows?
That was probably 20, 22, 23, 24,
So about
24.
5 or 6 years into the addiction. Is that pretty close?
Uh, yes, sir. So my clean date is August 21st of 20 or August 12th of 2021, and it all started in 2013. So this is 7 years, 8 years. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. When you said August 21st there, my ears perked up. That's our anniversary. That
Oh,
was
wow.
nice. Okay. So you were pretty close to it there, just 9 or 10 days off, regardless. The important thing is you found a clean time.
That's right.
Okay. So you just told us your low of lows, and you came to realize that this is life and death at this point. I either pull out of this or it's gonna strangle me.
That's
It's
right.
gonna end everything. What made you even think you were worth saving physically, let alone spiritually? What made you think there is a way out of this? What was the example? What was the hope based on? Uh, had it been friends that had gotten clean, or was it just a renewed belief in yourself that says, I can do this? What was it, Tyler? How were you able to move forward and to accomplish what it was going to take to keep you moving forward?
We just need to wait for Tyler to rejoin. His phone has dropped. There he is.
You got us?
Hey, my phone overheated from sitting in the windshield right here.
Ah,
Texas
okay.
sun got it overheated on me,
All
so I
right.
got it in front of the AC now.
I was asking you, what is it that made you think you were even worth saving? What what enticed you to believe or to even have hope? Uh, with all you'd been through, what made you think you could do it then?
Just knowing it was there. I'd seen it. I'd went to the rehabs, and I had the friends that were 2 years out, and I saw them on social media, and they were still doing good. You could tell they were still doing good. And I had heard stories and testimonies like this one of people who made it to the other side, who made it out of that active addiction, and that always stuck in the back of my brain. It always was in the back of my mind that it could be mine. It could be mine. I just hadn't reached the point of where sobriety had not become worth more than the numbing, than the negative consequences. Let's say that. So that light that I saw, it wasn't worth as much, or it wasn't worth more than the negative consequences I was getting.
Gotcha.
So I was ready to continue going down that road. And when I hit that point, you can kind of feel it. I don't want to say you, but I can kind of feel it. I felt it. I felt being that close to death when you come out of that, and you realize that you open the door for the devil to come get you. That is not a good feeling at all. And when I hit that point and I realized, like, I myself, my actions open that door and let him in to come and take my soul, to take my life, then sobriety became worth it really fast.
So, what was your first step forward, first positive step away from the drug toward sobriety?
I want to say it was packing it up and making it home. I want to say that was my best first step. But I think on the contrary, my best first step was as soon as I got out of the hospital, I went straight to church. It was a Sunday morning when I got out, and I went straight to church. My grandma had been asking me, and I didn't know if I was going to get out in time, but I went straight there. And at this point, I'm in that point where all the emotions are flooding back in, all the feelings are flooding back in, and so I got to church and I just broke down, and I went home and I just stuck it out. I kept sticking it out. Every time I wanted to do something, I got into the Word. I went to as many meetings as I could and tried to share through that. But it was definitely hard. But I would have to say my first step was deciding to the jig was up. Just let the scam end and
Yeah,
go home and be honest. Get honest. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. Honesty, open mindedness, and willingness. That's how we got to do it. So
the lie can take you down, the honesty can lift you up. It's a battle either way, but that's where it comes from. So, what has been your continued strategy?
Real quick, Tyler, can you move your phone away from the bed? We can't hear you.
yes, sir. Is that better?
Much
Yeah.
better, much better.
All
All right.
right.
What has been your continued strategy to stay above it? Because I know, you know, getting clean, staying clean is a lifelong process. And there are days that I'm sure the thought crosses your mind. But what is it that keeps you above that and helps you focus on the positive instead of falling back in that hole?
It's it's just the motivation, the inspiration that as 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 far as I've come at this point, there's no way to go back. It's just there's no way to justify ever even thinking about going back. But I think now it's mostly trying to build my relationship with God. It was I got confused there for a while because after I got clean and I got rid of that urge and that mental obsession, that mental craving to go and get something or to go and do this or that. Once I got rid of that, I kind of found myself in a place of, well, I don't know what my purpose is. Like all I've ever known as a purpose is get more drugs. And so I went through a little spell of depression. Nobody says it's going to be sunshine and rainbows all through recovery because it's not. But I kind of went through a little bit of depression, and that's where God started picking me back up and just kind of moving me forward and saying, "Listen, I've given you this light. You have to let people see it shine through you. You have to let them see my light through you." And so I just try to go through every day and be of service. I think my main motivation is I don't want to be the scumminess I was before. Like I don't want to be a thief. I don't want to be somebody who hurts my family and friends. I don't want to be a ghost to my siblings or to other family members. I want to be I want to be I want to be of service. I want to be able to just help people at any given time, any moment. And that in and of itself is really really what helps. It's really underestimated and undersold just how good it makes you feel to go do something for someone else.
I understand that totally. Uh, it's selfish almost, giving or sharing with somebody knowing it's a high for me. It's almost an addiction to be able to serve, to be able to help, to be able to encourage, to be able to lift up, to be involved with somebody who's struggling and to see them step up. Man, I get my thrills from that. And that puts aside all those other painful moments that we have, that we experience. The scripture said, in life you will have trouble. That's from John, I believe, but it's not if you have trouble. That's for Christians and non Christians alike. That's not Sunday sensitive. It's not church or no church sensitive. It's life.
That's
Struggles
right.
come. How are we going to deal with them? What are we going to do with them? And how are we going to rise above them? And it's a challenge at all times. You've mentioned some of the things, but what are some of the disciplines, your daily routines and all that keep you clean and sober, Tyler, that make you the winner you've become?
So from day to day, uh, I really try to start my day with prayer. As soon as I get out of bed, I walk out on the back porch, and I'm lucky enough to get to see a big Texas sunrise every morning, a nice pink sunrise every morning. So it's really inspiring to be able to talk to him at that time. And so I talk to him, and I try to get into his word, get a devotional done, maybe a verse of the day on my Bible app. Really try and maintain an open conversation throughout the day. I Formal prayer is right in certain, like, in situations, or at dinners or things like that. But for me, I find I have my best days when I'm just constantly talking to him, because either I'm going to be talking to myself in my head, and a lot of times it's not always the most positive self-talk, or I can be talking to somebody who knows everything, who knows me better than I know myself, and somebody who can give me answers to problems and small inconveniences throughout the day as they occur. And so instead of letting them frustrate me or upset me or hurt me, now I can just roll with it and roll with the punches. And then I like to get outside. I like to, unless it's storming, rainy. I really love to go try and get outside. I picked up golfing, and so that's one thing that I really like to do is go to the driving range every day after work and hit a bucket of balls, or try and make a tee time on Saturday. And that's a really good routine that I found. I also try and I have a Saturday meeting at the church we have, and so I always go there every Saturday, and then make sure I got the family in church, the baby boy in church on Sunday morning as well. And so it's very spiritually revolved. I went through the 12-step program. I went through the 12 steps, and I'm a huge fan of it. But at the end of those 12 steps, you come to that point I was speaking of, where you feel like as if you've recovered, as if you don't have the mental obsession or the physical maladies anymore. And now it's focused about growing with God and with service. Steps 10, 11, and 12 is just, it's a repeat of, okay, how to do today, and how can I go help somebody else tomorrow. And it's a repeat, and that's what life is for me as a recovering addict. Every day that I go through is, I'm just trying to repeat 10, 11, and 12. I'm just trying to go through and repeat those steps, but I
Tell
don't
the
have to
folks
think.
what steps 10, 11, and 12 are. Those who may not know, who haven't been through AA or a 12 step, tell them what steps 10, 11, and 12 are, please.
Now, I'm paraphrasing. It's been a minute
Sure.
since I saw them written down, but 10 is, we took a nightly inventory of how we did throughout the day, of kind of our moral compass for the day. And a lot of times you can write it down. What fears did I have? What regrets did I have today? Did I get it? Just all the different things that you experienced or felt as you went throughout your day. 11 is that we prayed for. Yes, I'm pretty sure that's it. We prayed for to be forgiven of where we had went wrong throughout the days, and we also asked to be of service to someone else, and asked him to. We gave our day to God is step 11, and number 12 is to be of service, to go and be of service, and to try and take the good news that we found to others in need of it.
Just as you're doing right now.
Yes, sir.
There are other ways to express it, but this is certainly a powerful way to get it done and let folks know that without God, man, you think it's hard with God. It's almost impossible without Him.
And that's what I find funny. I don't know the accuracy to it. Nobody lived with Mr. Bob or Mr. Bill, but I do know that there was a guy who always used to say that the 12 steps were implemented originally as a Christian based thing, as a God based thing,
Right?
but they replaced with higher power to be more inclusive. And I've seen it work. I've seen it work for a lot of people, but for me, it's just not going to work without my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I mean, he's what's got to pull me through all of this, and he's the one who paid it all. It's kind of weird to think about.
It is, but it's powerful when you come to recognize that point that it's above me, beyond me, but nothing exceeds Him. And
That's
to
right.
find that strength, to find that help, uh, where are your relationships generally now versus when you were going through the addiction and all the ugliness of that time?
Oh wow.
I
Um,
noticed you lift your eyebrows there like zap.
it's so different. My father and I, we get along so well. He used to he used to get so angry because it was, you only care about me if I'm giving you money. And my grandma was the same way. And that's what it seemed like our lives revolved around. And now I just call my grandma up and we just talk. And I just call my dad up and we just talk about just random things. And that's something I never really thought or saw the importance of until now. Like, because I know she's going to be gone one day, and I know he's going to be gone one day, and so I didn't know the importance of just a phone call until now. And so I avoided my family constantly, and if I wasn't avoiding them, I was asking for something, or I was fighting with them about something. And so my relationships nowadays are a lot more honest and open. uh, there's a lot more communication, and there's a lot of trust now. I've finally gotten to a point where I've rebuilt a lot of that trust, where my
That's
family
big.
can trust what I'm saying, and they know they if he says this is what's going on, this is what's going on, and they don't have to try and investigate on their own. And so that's a big thing with the relationships. I've worked really hard to get to this point too, where I feel like they trust me again, and so yeah, I
Okay.
think that's kind of how
S-
they've changed. It used to be a lot of avoidance, a lot of run and hide, and now it's I rather meet head on and talk about things. And of course, I've made a lot of amends and things of that nature, but so it does make it easier to say I can sit down head on. But that is, I think that's the biggest thing.
And that's big stuff uh, for everybody, not just for you, but for those that were with you through the struggle, had to say no at times, or those who said yes, wishing they hadn't, whatever the case was. And, I know you play an entirely different role in the family now than you did. And you, with your own family, you're going to come to recognize even more. So that's all a part of the process. So, what what are your goals for the future, Tyler? And how are you going to stay above this struggle?
I have to stay focused on moving forward, on progress. That's something that stuck with me throughout my entire recovery. Has been, if you're not moving forwards, you're moving backwards. And maybe some people can stay stagnant in one place for long periods of time. But for me, I have to know I'm growing, and I have to know I'm progressing spiritually. I mean, not just financially or materialistically, but spiritually. In here, I have to feel like I'm becoming a better person each and every day. Um, I think that's I think that's one of the things that's really, it's never ending. It's infinite. It's one of those, because you so Jesus was a perfect person. He was a perfect man. And we want to be more like Jesus. We want to try and treat people and love people and forgive people the way Jesus has. And so every day I have to work towards getting closer to that instead of getting further away from that. And I know that if I'm not getting closer, I am getting further away. And so it's a lot of calling on Him and making sure that I'm progressing forward with that relationship and trying to stay in the Word. But also for the future, my my big dream is I want to have a Christ centered construction company, which I have that, but I wanna be able to grow it and for it to be blessed enough to where I can partner with some sober livings around here, or maybe some rehabilitation centers or something like that. So as these guys come out and they're in sober living and they're looking for a job, they have a safe place to go, because it is a really good trade. Being in remodeling and construction is a really good trade to know. And it's really good for I feel, from me and my addiction, because I get to use my hands and I get to focus my mind onto something instead of letting it run wild. And so
Important.
my main thing is I want to be able to have a company where, as these guys come into sober livings and such, they have the option to, if they want to come and come work in a Christ centered, clean construction company, they have that opportunity and they have that option. And of course, from there we can go all over the place with it. But
Sure.
that's the main thing. I want to be able to have something that can give back in more than just testimony, and testimony is good, and it can touch a lot of people. But I got helped in that way, where there was a guy in sober living, and he let me do flooring and tile with him. And so that's the big thing, as far as on earth, what I want to accomplish here on my time on earth. That would be it.
That's
um
that's neat. I I like the visual of that. I've seen similar to where you've got to have that opportunity as you start to come around to sobriety and excuse me, and clean time, and you can't always get it. You get your finger stomped as you're climbing out of the hole, and you're trying to give opportunities of a positive nature and positive influence. I hear you quite often talk about the need to be moving forward, or you know, if you're stagnant, you're going to die. Those weren't your exact words, but I think if riding that bicycle, you can pedal and pedal, and when you stop, you can coast so far, but then it's going down. It's going to hit the ground if you don't start pedaling again. So that is the necessary part. Tyler, as we wrap this up here, is there anything else you want to say or address or words you want to offer to anybody before we're done?
Hang on, I'm asking God to speak through me. But if anything, I can just hope that this touched maybe at least one person. And if that's the case, then it's a success. Um to me, but just don't give up. Whatever it is, don't give up and don't lay down. Whatever you're going through, it's not too late. And there is a Father that loves us and that wants the best for us. My favorite verse is Jeremiah 29:11.
Ah, love
For
it.
I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope in a future, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future. And that's, I mean, I ride around with it on my dash every day, and that's my thing. Cling to that. Whatever you're going through now, whatever you may go through in this life whatsoever, it's for a purpose. And it's either to help you later on down the road, or so you can help somebody else.
Amen.
What we don't always consider is that maybe we walk around and we ask God for all these things all day long. I know I'm very selfish when I talk to God sometimes, but the more that we consider trying to be the answer to somebody else's prayer, this world is going to be a whole lot better place. And
Amen.
it helps us, and it helps me stay sober. And so just don't ever give up, fight through, and know you have a purpose. And if you're at that point where you're you're past the mental and the physical part of it and you're looking for a purpose, find every opportunity to quietly help
Amen.
somebody. Don't say anything, and then just put a Hershey kiss on somebody's pillow, and then just don't say it was you, and you will feel so good inside. Just try and be of service as best you can.
What we like to say here, faith in your recovery, is stay in the battle. And whether you've had addiction issues or not, as we've already said, life's a battle. Stay in the game, give it your best shot, rely on him, and he'll get you there. Tyler, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your story. Thanks for connecting. We're proud of you. We love you.
Awesome.
Thank you, dude.
Thank you. Thank
We'll
you very
see you
much, and I
again.
appreciate the time.
Yeah. God bless. Take care, folks. Stay in the battle. You're worth it. And you can win it, but not by being complacent. Reach for the stars, reach for God. You're going to get there. Amen. Thank you.